Well, hello, my tea starers. Today, we're going to talk about the welfare system. Did the welfare system break up the Black family? Did the welfare system break up the Black family? What got us in that position, and how can we get ourselves out of that position? We're still locked in that system today. Did that system cause our Black men to leave? If it caused our Black men to leave, how did your boyfriend get in the house, but the man of the house had to go? Were we left just to be single? Was that the downfall of the Black family? Is the welfare system the downfall, or one of the downfalls, to keep us enslaved, to keep the Black family from breaking up? When we all was coming together as one, did they implement it? Was that just for the Black people? Was that for everybody that was on public assistance? Did all colors who got on public assistance, did they had to get their man out the house, or did Black people suffer the most? What was the loopholes for other races that the Black people didn't have them loopholes? What was it? What was it, and was what it is? And how the welfare system, up until today, 2021, still have a lot of Black families trapped off. They refuse to get off that welfare system. So is this the gift that was supposed to be a gift that keep on giving to our negativity? So we're going to check out some videos, and we're going to see about this Mr. Welfare Man. Mr. Welfare Man. We're going to give a little grace period so our people could come on into the room, because we need to talk about this. This is something we need to talk about. Is because women can get on public assistance? Is that why we get a lot of dusties? We get a lot of dusties who also feed off that system. The same system that took the fathers out of the household is also the same system that brought the dusties in the household. How can a man be a man? How many men living with women? How many? We don't know. How many of them does not have to contribute to the household because the system is taking care of the woman? So does that also is the downfall of men not going out there and doing their best to succeed in life because they know that they have a woman in a house, and because of the welfare system and the all these different oh, okay, thank you, Shasha. I'll check you out too. Is it that because of this system, our Black men have gotten lazy? They feel that they don't have to do nothing. The system got it because of the Section 8, welfare, food stamps, and all this other stuff. You got more men that pry on women who get public assistance than men who pry on women who got money. Because that women who got money is not going to make it so easy for them. So we are definitely going to check this out. I would love to play that song, but I can't play it because that is a copyright strike. But this is something we need to talk about, and we're going to start this up right now. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
By the 50s, the same authorities were taxing their citizens, including those who live in the Bronx and other devastated areas beyond the East River, to subsidize public housing. Another idea with good intentions. Yet poor people are paying for this, subsidized apartments for the well-to-do. When government at city or federal level spends our money to help us, strange things happen. The idea that government had to protect us came to be accepted during the terrible years of the Depression. Capitalism was said to have failed, and politicians were looking for a new approach. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a candidate for the presidency. He was governor of New York State. At the governor's mansion in Albany, he met repeatedly with friends and colleagues to try to find some way out of the Depression. The problems of the day were to be solved by government action and government spending. The measures that FDR and his associates discussed here derive from a long line of past experience. Some of the roots of these measures go back to Bismarck's Germany at the end of the 19th century, the first modern state to institute old age pensions and other similar measures on the part of government. In the early 20th century, Great Britain followed suit. Under Lloyd George and Churchill, it too instituted old age pensions and similar plans. These precursors of the modern welfare state had little effect on practice in the United States, but they did have a very great effect on the intellectuals on the campus, like those who gathered here with FDR. The people who met here had little personal experience of the horrors of the Depression, but they were confident that they had the solution. In their long discussions as they sat around this fireplace, trying to design programs to meet the problems raised by the worst depression in the history of the United States, they quite naturally drew upon the ideas that were prevalent at the time. The intellectual climate had become one in which it was taken for granted that government had to play a major role in solving the problems, in providing what came later to be called security from cradle to grave. Roosevelt's first priority after his election was to deal with massive unemployment. A public works program was started. The government financed projects to build highways, bridges, and dams. The National Recovery Administration was set up to revitalize industry. Roosevelt wanted to see America move into a new era. The Social Security Act was passed and other measures followed. Unemployment benefits, welfare payments, distribution of surplus food. With these measures, of course, came rules, regulations, and red tape, as familiar today as they were novel then. The government bureaucracy began to grow, and it's been growing ever since. This is just a small part of the Social Security empire today. Their headquarters in Baltimore has 16 rooms this size. All these people are dispensing our money with the best possible intentions. But at what cost? In the 50 years since the Albany meetings, we have given government more and more control over our lives and our income. In New York State alone, these government buildings house 11,000 bureaucrats, administering government programs that cost New York taxpayers $22 billion. At the federal level, the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare alone has a budget larger than any government in the world, except only Russia and the United States. Yet these government measures often do not help the people they are supposed to. All right. Richard Brown's daughter, Halima, needs constant medical attention. She has a throat defect and has to be connected to a breathing machine so that she'll survive the nights. It's expensive treatment, and you might expect the family to qualify for a Medicaid grant.
No, I don't get it because I'm not eligible for it. I make a few dollars too much, and the salary that I make, I can't afford to really live and save anything. Is out of the question. And I mean, we live from payday to payday. I mean, literally from payday to payday.
The struggle isn't made any easier by the fact that Mr. Brown knows that if he gave up his job as an orderly at the Harlem hospital, he would qualify for a government handout, and he'd be better off financially. It's a terrible pressure on him, but he's proud of the work that he does here, and he's strong enough to resist the pressure.
Mr. Brown, and you're fully dilated, so I'm here to take you to the delivery room. Try not to push, please. You want to have a nice sterile delivery.
Mr. Brown has found out the hard way that welfare programs destroy an individual's independence.
We've considered welfare. We went to see if I'd apply for welfare, but we were told that we were only eligible for $5 a month. And to receive this $5, we would have to cash in our son's savings bonds. And that's not even worth it. But I don't believe in something for nothing anyway.
I think a lot of people are capable of working and are willing to work, but it's just the way it's set up. The mother and the children are better off if the husband isn't working or if the husband isn't there, and this breaks up so many poor families.
One of the saddest things is that many of the children whose parents are on welfare will, in their turn, end up in the welfare trap when they grow up. In this public housing project in the Bronx, New York, 3/4 of the families are now receiving welfare payments. Well, Mr. Brown wanted to keep away from this kind of thing for a very good reason. The people who get on welfare lose their human independence and feeling of dignity. They become subject to the dictates and whims of their welfare supervisor, who can tell them whether they can live here or there, whether they may put in a telephone, what they may do with their lives. They're treated like children, not like responsible adults. And they're trapped in the system. Maybe a job comes up that looks better than welfare, but they're afraid to take it, because if they lose it after a few months, it may be 6 months or 9 months before they can get back onto welfare. And as a result, this becomes a self-perpetuating cycle, rather than simply a temporary state of affairs. Things have gone even further elsewhere. This is a Hume Estate, a public housing project in Manchester, England. Well, we're 3,000 miles away from the Bronx here, but you'd never know it just by looking around. It looks as if we're at the same place. It's the same kind of flats, same kind of massive housing units, decrepit even though they were only built 7 or 8 years ago, vandalism, graffiti, the same feeling about the place of people who don't have a great deal of drive and energy because somebody else is taking care of their day-to-day needs, because the state has deprived them of an incentive to find jobs, to become responsible people, to be the real supports of themselves and their families. For the past 7 years, Maureen Ramsey has had to buy food and clothes for her family out of a government handout. For the whole of that time, her husband, Steve, hasn't had a job. Each week, he collects what's known in Britain as Social Security. The government looks after him, his wife, and their children. But accepting
They got a black son too?
means accepting the rules of those who hand them out.
My opinion, anyway, you feel as they own you. You know, there's no other way of putting it. Say I got a job tomorrow because I needed something. Well, I know that I've got to go down there and report it, because I couldn't go into the job because you'd be looking over your shoulder thinking, well, the Social Security is coming in. I'm going to be done for it. It's just hopeless. You can't fight against it.
The jobs around now these days, you only come out with about £45 a week. Then you deduct your stamp out of that. You still finish up with about £39. So what good is he working? When you still get the same thing, you know what I mean? I can't see any sense of it.
Of course, he's quite right that it may not pay him to get a job now. That's not his fault, and I don't blame him. He's acting sensibly and intelligently for his own interest and the interest of his family. It's the fault of a system which takes away the incentive from him to get a job. But suppose you were cruel and simply took away the
You
welfare
peep
overnight,
that.
cut it off. What would happen? He would find a job. What kind of a job? I don't know. Might not be a very nice job. It might not be a very attractive job. But at some wage, at some level of pay, there will always be a job which he could get for himself. It might be also that he would be driven to...
Because America was founded on a work ethic, has practiced the work ethic, and has said this is what we want everybody to do, the opportunity to hold a job in America.
Everyone here has to clock in and do a full day's work. It's an attempt to make it seem like a real job.
We're saying a job is part of the American way of life, and we're going to help you find a job so that you can get a piece of the pie, you can pay taxes, you can become a part of that American dream.
But the dream isn't working. Schemes like this, run under the government's Comprehensive Education and Training Act, CETA, have a high dropout rate, and many trainees end up back where they began, on welfare. The men and women who administer CETA and similar programs, the officials of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, are dedicated people. Their motives are good. Their achievements are not.
Their motives are not good. Their motives are not good. They just make you think that the motives are good because they figure we're going to get you out the bed, but you're not giving them the skills that they want. You're just getting them ready to work. For whatever reason, as we see, the welfare system, white people get it too. So I don't want to hear nothing about just the black people get it. We killed that one on this one. They're not giving the skills. They're not sending them back to school. They don't have no real programs, but they want you to check in and check out in a place that does not fit them. So they are still directing your life. Some places, all you do is go sit down all day and call places and ask for a job. That's called, I forgot what it's called. But some places you just do that. You still ain't doing nothing.
The results of these programs have been disappointing. Why? I believe that the basic...
And remember, this is in the 1970s.
To achieve good objectives through bad means.
Remember, guys, this is from the 1970s. I like to show you on this channel what went on then goes on now. Nothing has changed. This is the 1970s. We're in 2021. So this is 45 to almost 50 years old. That's how long this video is. And what has changed?
And the means we have been using are bad in two very different respects. In the first place, all of these programs involve some people spending other people's money for objectives that are determined by still a third group of people. Nobody spends somebody else's money as carefully as he spends his own. Nobody has the same dedication to achieving somebody else's objectives that he displays when he pursues his own. Beyond this, the programs have an insidious effect on the moral fiber of both the people who administer the programs and the people who are supposedly benefiting from it. For the people who administer it, it instills in them a feeling of almost godlike power. For the people who are supposedly benefiting, it instills a feeling of childlike dependence. Their capacity for personal decision-making atrophies. The result is that the programs involve a misuse of money. They do not achieve the objectives which it was their intention to achieve. But far more important than this, they tend to rot away the very fabric that holds a decent society together.
If you think that's overstating the case, look what HEW found when it made a special investigation into the spending of the vast funds it administers.
We just got the plan from the Public Health Service on reducing the necessary beds.
In these reels of tape that record every payment made, every recipient, they found evidence that a staggering $7.5 billion had been lost by fraud, waste, and abuse in 1 year. Doctors, building contractors, hospitals, schools, welfare recipients, everyone had been fraudulently dipping into the pot, and the investigation isn't over yet. The inevitable consequence of having a huge pot of taxpayers' money is that all of us want to get our hands in it. You can be sure that we'll all be able to find very good reasons why we should be the ones to spend somebody else's money. Somebody or other put up a good case for spending taxpayers' money to subsidize rents in New York City, including the rents of these apartments. The people who occupy these apartments pay something like $200 a month less than the market rent. And that subsidy comes out of the taxes of people, most of whom are much poorer than the people who live here. It's not unusual for this sort of thing to happen when the government tries to do good with our money. Look at what happened in Chicago. Government money was used to tear down an area that contained many small shops as well as families of low income. Once the area was cleared, private money rebuilt it.
We're going to get back to this. We're going to get back to this because he's telling his side of the story. Like people just sit around and want this welfare money. Do you think that people just sit around and just want money from Mr. Welfare Man? What do you think? We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Let's check out what really goes on. We heard his side of the story, but let's check out what really goes on.
He shot a cop and got 30 to 60 years. He's my age, so I mean that's what happens though. Like when you just gotta be smart when you're growing up, so you don't be in jail forever or having to kill somebody.
We will definitely have a part 2, but if anybody would like to come on up and talk about this welfare system, about how it passed down to generations, how it stopped us from being a community, a growing community, a working community. What did it do to our mindset? What did it do to our mindset? Because if not, we're going to have part 2 tomorrow. We're going to have part 2 tomorrow. Look at Kiana looking all pretty. How's that baby? But we would definitely have part 2 and more conversations like this tomorrow night We will. We will get into some more conversations like this. If this is your first time watching this channel and you'd like to support this channel, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to leave a comment, I'm interested in your comments and I read them all. Leave a comment down below. And don't not forget to hit that like button, So we are finished. We just started. We are just starting this with the welfare. So we heard the Caucasian man tell his side of it. Thank you, darling. So now we see our side of it. But we also know that welfare destroyed a lot of families, regardless of what color that you are. The welfare system put them in a terrible, terrible mind state that keep on getting passed down to generation to generation. I mean, hopefully her kids will see that she's trying, but the same thing she said about her mother now will be done to her. And that man picked a fine time to leave this girl. He picked up this black man that always fighting for respect. The same black man. All he's going to say is she drove me away. That's all they can say. But you left a pregnant woman and 2 kids that who has to be in the shelter and do it all alone. Aren't we tired of that? Aren't we tired of making excuses of why we are not responsible for our own actions? A woman cannot make you leave your kids. You don't like her, then you go to court after supervised visits. And we ask for these women. You have to know women gotta slow down. You know, because now you got grandmothers that's 30, 31, and 32 years old. They are grandmothers, which at that age, they didn't even reach 40 yet. So they could still party hardy. They didn't even get to the good part of their lives yet. And then now they got grandchildren. That still is going to be under the welfare system. How do we break out of that? How do we break out of that? How do our black children, boys and girls, break out of, oh, I didn't see my father? How do we get out of the stage where the daddy wasn't around? We've been doing the best that we can. You hear people say, hey, join a. You hear people say all the time, oh, let them join a sports or do this or do that. But we have to let these kids know, regardless if daddy is around or not, you are responsible for you. When you get locked up, that judge did not ask you, was your daddy there? No, you are going to jail. And now your kids have to say, oh, my father was in jail. We are in such a disarray, us as people, that all we can keep doing is blaming each other. That's all we seem to do. We got to do better, and we're going to keep on having these conversations. But as of tonight, we are done with this conversation, and I see you guys tomorrow on the next episode of the state of our people. The state of our people, the mindset of our people, and what has been done to our people. So I catch you guys on the next one. Don't forget, if it's your first time here, you want to support the channel, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and y'all all have a great night. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate all of you guys. Have a great night.